After a brief hiatus, welcome back to Acting Like an Actor. I'm your host, Sophie Jordan Collins, and this week we are joined by actress Molly Anderson. Molly is known for her work on shows such as The Double Life of My Billionaire Heiress, Perfume and Moon, My Heartless Alpha, and so many more. She also stars in films such as Mail Lady, Froggy, That Night, and many more. We talk super candidly about what it's like first moving out to LA, everything from finances to roommates to random jobs. We talk about representation, if having a bad rep is better than no rep. We talk about the realities of being a female in this industry, and Molly gets really vulnerable about how sometimes everything is not what it seems. A little PSA, if you're sensitive to this stuff, we do talk a little bit about sexual assault and things like that, so I will put the timestamp right here if you want to skip past that certain point. But without further ado, here is Molly Anderson.
Are you rich?
Are you famous?
What have you been on?
I don't really recognize you, and neither does my mom.
Can you laugh?
Can you cry on command?
I mean, you said you were an actor, man.
What's your backup plan? Is it shattered?
Dude, I'm just acting like an actor.
The question I always start with is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, jeez. Oh, this is such a good, relating to acting specifically.
You can do both if you want.
Okay. Okay, the best piece of advice I've ever been given was probably from my mom. And this was something she said out of context years ago. And it was, you will always make the right decision for yourself in the moment. And I have not a clue what she was talking about as far as the situation goes, but I've always thought of it as like when I'm in my moments of struggle or doubt, or like I'm in a high pressure situation and I have to just make a decision quick, whatever I pick will be right in that moment. And if it's wrong later, I can deal with that later. But sometimes you just have to like make a decision and go with it. Yeah. And I think in such a fast paced business, that becomes super relevant for me in my daily life pretty frequently.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think too, so many times when we overthink and like sit on stuff, nothing ends up happening.
Right.
Like if you just sit there and decide, should I do this or should I do this? You can just like sit there and think forever. Sometimes you just have to pick something and hope it's right. And if it's not, regroup and you learn from
There's your next project. You just gotta like fix the problem you just got yourself in.
And then going on from there, can you tell us kind of your story, how you fell into acting, if you were an actor growing up, things like that?
Totally. So I was 4 years old. My parents put me in a class called No More Monkeys Jumping on the Bed, in which we performed a theatrical rendition of No More Monkeys Jumping on the Bed. I was a monkey who jumped on the bed. And then afterwards they gave me flowers, and I remember like being on stage and being like, okay, this is the most fun thing I've ever done. My teacher's name was Kat, and she was like this quirky, like probably middle-aged woman, and she was like, you can do anything, like it's magic, theater's magic. I was like, fuck yes, it is good. And so that was kind of like my first experience of being on stage, but I grew up like going to shows a lot, and every single one of them I just wanted to be performing. So I grew up like you in Michigan. So as you know, there is very little of an industry there. So I was doing theater my entire life. I did about 50 shows throughout childhood. And then I got to high school and they were like, you gotta go to college for acting if you want to be an actor. And I was like, of course, duh, that makes more sense than anything I've ever heard. So I signed away a bunch of student loans and got myself into a little BFA program. And that was 2019, the fall of 2019. So then spring of 2020 came and they were like, get the hell out. There's a pandemic now. So I fucked off to my parents for a bit. And then when I was that next summer, I moved to New York by myself on a whim because I was stuck in a really bad living situation and I was trapped in the pandemic.
You moved to New York?
I moved to New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For school or anything or no?
Just for the summer.
Oh my God, queen, okay. Do you like Airbnb it or just buy a random room? Okay.
So I was 19.
Oh my God.
I was having this crisis, like I was in a bad spot.
Yeah.
No, like I would have said I was doing really well.
Yeah, that's what we all do.
I was like, no, I'm in a really great place right now. I'm like studying to become an EMT.
Oh, so you did a little pivot.
Yeah, like I suddenly need a backup option. I don't know, the world was falling apart.
No,
I didn't
it's
know what was
true.
going on. And I was like in class and I got a text from fucking Grant Wifely Casting or Willfully Casting, one of those two. In New York, and they gave me like a featured background role on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I was like, I have to go. And I stood up in class and I was like, I gotta go. And there was just something about me where I was like, this could only make my life better. Like, it didn't feel like it could get worse at the time.
Yeah.
So I booked a plane ticket, started driving to the airport immediately, and then just got like an Airbnb after my COVID test, like in the coffee shop across from Steiner Studios. It was $20 a night in Brooklyn. I was sharing with like a middle-aged guy who I never saw.
Okay.
He stayed in his room and played video games the whole time. My door didn't lock. I lied to my parents about the whole situation.
So bad, but I'm glad it wasn't.
No, I survived. It was great. And so then I stayed for a week and kind of got some more little background jobs, and I ended up staying for the summer. And after that, I was like, this is clearly like I can work in the industry in some capacity. I'd rather take my chances. So I got to graduate a year early from college, and then I moved out to LA like right after graduation. So I've been in LA it'll be 2 years at the end of the summer.
2022, you moved out here?
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 2022.
Makes sense, yeah.
We'll go with
2 years ago.
2022. And so then since then, I had no money. To graduate early, I was doing 28 credits a semester, so I couldn't like logistically get a job. So when I got out here, it was very much like a sink or swim. And I got a job my second day, which was great. So that I was just kind of paying my way until I could like get an apartment and a car.
Mommy and Daddy weren't paying for everything for you?
Mommy's a public school teacher, and I don't know what my dad does, but he works an hourly job.
Sure.
They did give me $3,000, and so I do have to caveat like the entirety of my success for the rest of my career in that if they hadn't given me that $3,000, I would have had to like get a sugar daddy or like move home. Like I wouldn't have had an option.
Yeah.
So I'm not self-made. I did have that like actually was necessary for me to continue staying in LA. And they've given me other financial support through the years as much as they've been able to.
Yeah, of course.
And it's never been, I've never had a check cut for $5,000, but they've given me a few hundred like every few months since I've been here. Not anymore. It's been like a year since that happened. But yeah, I feel like I have to disclaimer, just like I owe it all to them being able to do that.
No, I love that. Thank you for being open about that too, because I feel like a lot of people our age, sometimes their parents help them and they're not open about that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say I've been financially independent like this whole year. It's been a year. But yeah, before that, they were giving me like a few hundred every couple months to like make the bill stretch.
Yeah, granted, Molly's 22, by the way, so like, I'm 22 as well, and I would have been graduating this year, and you graduated early, so you probably would have been graduating this year as well, which I sometimes think about that, because you know how it is in Hollywood, like sometimes like, damn, I'm fucking 22, and like, what am I doing with my life? But then I'm like, okay, most 22-year-olds are just now graduating, we've been on our own for a little bit, so I try to give myself a little bit of grace there.
I heard a podcast when I was like 18, and it was a big fancy manager, and I don't know who it was, but I'd like to have a word with him if I ever found out.
Yeah.
And he was like, there's this thing in Hollywood where if you're not 25 with a big credit, you're done. Like no one's gonna sign you. We have to get like 4 levels of approval to even meet with you at an agency because you're just not considered like going anywhere. And that like shifted. When people are like, oh, that shifted my brain chemistry. I like rewired my neurons to be like,
by 25.
fucking let's go. Like 5 years, let's go. So now I'm 22, I'm like, this is my moment of dreams. Or I die. Like I don't know what happens after that.
It's funny, I've had 25 in my head too. I don't know what I heard, but why is that? That's like the age in my head too, where I'm like,
it's over. It's game over. Yeah, September 29th, 2026 is going to be either a great day or a terrible day.
Which is funny because Molly's a working actress right now. Which,
I know.
do you ever think about that too? It's like, I have to remind myself, where I'm like, I always told myself success was being a working actor. And then now that I'm technically a working actor, like I make a bulk of my income off that, I'm still like, there's always the next thing.
Yeah.
So it's like something, I don't know.
So I actually just had I'm happy you brought this up. I had a really great conversation with my friend this weekend about this. He's in the mailroom at CAA. And I've got a lot of friends who are like assistants or the mailroom or whatever, the industry's only so big, we all kind of know each other. And like, he was telling me about like, we have these problems and he's trying to be a writer, I'm an actor, and we're all like, oh, we're not getting anywhere in our careers, even though like I make 100% of my income from acting. And I'm like, oh, I'm have so much further to go. And he's like, look, your favorite A-listers and the biggest people are fighting for their lives. Like, I see the emails from these people to their agents, and they're like, my career's gonna end, like, I need a bigger book, like, I'm not getting stuff, like, they are struggling no matter where they are. And he's like, so what hope is there for the rest of us if they can't even, feel whatever satisfaction, they need from their career? And I was like, I honestly think that that's a hopeful thing, because what it means is that clearly, no matter how objectively successful you are, you're always gonna feel that way. Like, those feelings of inadequacy or insecurity or desire for something bigger and better are never gonna disappear, no matter how many Academy Awards you have in your closet. So I have those feelings, but I guess they're not consequential. That's actually not indicative of my current success level or my potential for success. It's just part of what comes with the job. So I feel like that releases kind of that anxiety and pressure of like if I feel this way, my career's over, and it's not. It's just, once you accept that and like allow yourself the freedom to be happy and fulfilled and satisfied with your career every step of the way. Like, I look around and I'm like, it is pretty good. I'm not doing the projects I want to be doing. Like, I'm not getting invited to the events I want to be going to. Like,
right.
It's not all the big glitz and glam that like I hope it is one day, but it's pretty good. And once I've learned, and I say that because I'm not fully there yet, once I've learned to like take in the present and love it and like commit to loving my life, I think the freedom that comes with that allows better work, better relationships, and just getting out of your own way and letting what you love and your passion be the driving force.
Yeah, I love that. And it allows you to enjoy your life too. I think too, sometimes we get so stuck in the like struggle of being an actor, and you gotta be a starving artist or you don't want it bad enough. And it's like, no, you can enjoy your life and have all these lovely things and enjoy every step of the way.
And the other lovely things enhance it.
Yeah, of course. They do, yeah. I think too, I remind myself of this as well, is like, when you look at these big stars, if you look back at them, there are a lot of weird random projects that a lot of them did too. So I think it's a good sign when you're around our age and you're at least booking some stuff. Because truthfully, I was having this conversation with Ashley yesterday when I had her, and we were talking about, I was like, if I didn't get a booking in a year being in LA, I probably would have booted. But we've seen little successes, and I think that's a good sign, because not everybody does. As sad as that is, it's an unfair industry. It really is. A lot of it's luck, a lot of it's like who you know and things like that. But we are seeing these small successes, and there's a testament in that too. Yeah. In seeing the little things. So the grass is always greener.
The grass is always greener, and it's hard to look back and see how far you've come too. I forget to turn around and like enjoy the view sometimes, because I'm so focused on like how much taller the mountain I want to climb is.
Of course, yeah. I would love to talk with you, Molly, because she's a bit of a businesswoman. We had a girly meetup yesterday, and I realized that, which I think is so good, because this is an acting business, and you have to fight for yourself sometimes. So I would be curious, Molly, if a production is not treating you correctly, or you feel like they're maybe taking advantage of you, how do you typically go about that?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that you can do for yourself is having good reps that you have a relationship with, because that can be their problem real quickly. It should be a phone call or a text, and suddenly they're dealing with it instead of you. I think it comes down again to like being able to be secure in where you are, because that releases you from being afraid of loss. And I think the biggest obstacle that we often face with standing up for ourselves is like, well, what if the person takes the thing away? What if we stand up for ourselves and we lose the job, or we're labeled hard to work with, now we don't get, And so when you can really feel settled in, and I'm not claiming to be there yet, but when you can really feel settled in like, this is what's happening now, but if it disappears, it disappears, and I'm still okay, then you can let yourself stand up for yourself. But I think that's a really hard thing to do if you're kind of stuck in like the fear mindset, or I guess like, the TikTok girlies would say like the scarcity mindset, so like abundance. But the first thing should be stepping away. If something immediate happens, like no matter what your contract says, you can step away. Yeah, 100%. Even if it's just saying, yo, I got 10-1, like, and you go for like 20 minutes, like you gotta take care of yourself. And set is hectic. The chaos of that is pretty unmatched. So being able to give yourself time to think clearly, and then I think you work your way up the chain of command. You pull your AD in. If you have a first team PA, you're like, hey, I gotta talk to you. Can you grab, the AD or your director, your producer, whoever you're closest with, and you can be honest about like, this is what's not working for me, and I can't do the job under these circumstances because I don't feel, safe is the biggest thing, supported, or just that this is a conducive environment for me to put myself out there, because acting is really vulnerable, and you're often asked to do really vulnerable things, especially if there's like stunts or intimacy. And I've been in the position a lot of times, and I haven't handled it the way that I've always wanted to, where I've been asked to do things that are far beyond my comfort zone or things that don't feel safe. And when I was younger,
Would you just do it?
I would just do it, yeah. And I was like, I want to be, it's all about relationships. I gotta be easy to work with. And that complex was so strong that I let myself be in harm's way, and I've got the horror stories, to show from it. Like, I've been in some really fucked up set situations. This has all been non-union work that these things have happened in though too, and so like that's a different game. Work as much as you can, you gotta be non-union for as long as you can, because what else is there to work on right now? So there is that, like, you gotta balance it out, but non-union work can be a much bigger risk because you're not guaranteed protections. And if you struggle to advocate for yourself, you're at a really big risk to be put in some bad situations.
No, I totally agree. I do think though, and I don't know exactly how we should go about this, but I do think it's fucked up some of the stuff non-union sets get away with in general. Like, just because you're non-union doesn't mean you can do all this weird stuff and like take advantage of actors. Like, I wish there was some, I don't even know, not a union, I don't know what it would be. Some sort of standards that they have to, I know, right? I know, some sort of standards that they have to follow, but it's just ridiculous. And I think it's embarrassing sometimes, the things that they ask us to do. I'm like, you should be embarrassed. You're quite literally going against SAG standards. But
I mean, we looked at that email I got yesterday with the posing. What do you feel like is the biggest non-union risk that you encounter or have encountered?
I think it's both stunt and intimacy scenes, similar to what you said. I think a lot of the time there's not the right people around, and I think even nudity, like they just throw that in every which way. You had such a funny TikTok where you were like acting out like a casting director of some sort in like an audition room. And you get naked for $50. And people were in the comments like laughing about it. I'm like, no, but that's so real. You see that shit on casting networks like all the time, like short film $50 to get nude and just like things like that. I just feel like there's no regulations around it at all, which again, that's why there is a union. But it's still like, I don't know, it's still fucked up. And I wish more people talked about that stuff going on in the non-union world, because it's not okay. Just because you're non-union doesn't mean you can do all this shady stuff. No,
and I think that, especially with non-union actors, no one really wants to be non-union. I feel like there is a bigger goal. And so it's easier to be in that mindset of like, I gotta play the game, I gotta play nice, so that I can like level up my career. And then you end up getting taken advantage of. I've seen a lot of times where stunt coordinators or intimacy coordinators are not like certified or licensed at all, and so they're saying like, oh, we've got the personnel to facilitate a risky scene, and then the people just aren't actually qualified to do it. So I hope that there is more, and I don't think this is necessarily like a legislation thing, but that it becomes a norm to ensure that the people that you're bringing on as the coaches have some kind of like certification or license, which there are for both of those positions. They're just not required. But again, you've just got a risk involved with that, and so then as an actor, you don't know until you're on set.
This is my buddy Bob, who's gonna be your intimacy coordinator. It's like, okay, but how do you and Bob know each other? Oh, it's high school.
We were talking about the thing with the makeup artist yesterday too. Like, it's the same situation. They're like, oh, I'm a friend of the director. I'm like, cool. Have you washed these brushes? I've got alcohol spray. I'm like, okay.
I'm gonna do my own makeup.
Thank you so much. I will be requiring my own makeup brush. I'm so sorry. And so it's funny we keep coming back to like this reputation of like being hard to work with, but I think it's actually so easy to get.
It is. Because I'm the type of person, similar to probably how you are now, where I will walk off set. I've literally walked off sets before because they're asking me to do weird shit. I can think of a couple like directors and producers that probably think I'm a bitch, which is fine. I would rather have that than have done the weird stuff that they think of. They're also not doing the type of projects that I really care for anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, that is a real thing.
Yeah, and that balance between progressing your career forwards without putting out stuff into the world that you can't stand behind is a really difficult one to strike, and it's so personal to each actor, and there's no guidelines for that, and you just have to figure it out as you go along. And so I think, if you're watching this and you're like hating on your favorite actors for stuff they did when they were young, they were fighting for their lives, and you don't know. And there are very few experts, and I've come across so many issues in my career where I'm like, I don't have anyone to ask.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a mentor. I don't have someone, and you've got your representatives, but that's kind of a limited capacity, and they're in such a specialized area of the industry too that they may not have the information you need. And so a lot of this business is just trial and error, and you don't know until you fuck it up. I have so many projects out there that I am not proud of. And I would, if I'm being completely transparent, I'm gonna say most of my work that's out there that exists is not work that I'm proud of. And so I said that my goal for this year, my 2024 goal, was to do one project that I could fully stand behind and show to people without a caveat. Because I show people my stuff and I'm like,
but they told me to like act like that. Like, this was good, but like they were telling me to like, I didn't love that I did.
Yeah. Or like, I tried, but there's just so much that I feel like I have out there that I hope kind of disappears one day.
Have you this year done something you would say you're fully proud of, or no? It's more like halfway through the year, so it's not.
Halfway through the year. I think I've done things that I'm proud of on a personal level because I've handled them better than I did or would have a year ago. But as far as like a finished product goes, I don't think I found that yet. And I think that may be one that I have to release for this year because of how slow the industry is. And when I look at what types of work are lined up for me in the upcoming months, I don't have that script yet where I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. I'm kind of just trying to keep my bills paid at this point, because every time I get a paycheck, I'm buying myself time to keep trying.
Absolutely.
I'm literally buying myself more days in Los Angeles to keep pursuing this. And so as much as I hate to like prioritize money above, my artistry or like doing good, it's like this year I feel like I just have to. The best thing though is I've gotten several hundred set hours in this year. And that kind of experience isn't something you can learn in a classroom, and it's not something that you can really get any other type of way. And so I think my skill set as an actor, and I don't just mean like getting into character, but like the overall encompassing job of an actor is something that like my growth rate has been exponential this year simply because I've been allowed the opportunity to practice for hundreds of hours. So I'm in a much better position now than I was in January. Even if I don't feel like I have the work to like show for it, I feel equipped to go on to like a larger opportunity and feel like I can knock it out of the damn ballpark without sweating at all because of that. So I have an outpouring of gratitude for that opportunity, because not everyone has that.
No, I love that. And again, that's taking like the positive mindset in terms of looking at things. What I will say, I mean, those verticals are boot camp. They really prep you. I feel like if you do a lead in one of those, you can do anything in the industry. And if you do it multiple times, we know there are a lot of problems in them. They're beautiful sets, but they're not perfect. But they do teach you a lot.
Yeah,
they do teach you.
I owe so much to that vertical space because of the practice hours, because of some connections, and keeping a roof over my head. Like, they kept a roof over my head.
Yeah.
So I owe them a lot, but I feel like if I can give a decent, like just a passable performance in a web series, I could give a good performance on a, like, I don't want to say a real set, but like a big set.
Yeah.
Because on the verticals, so often you're set up for failure. They're not prioritizing the acting.
So true.
And so then they're not prioritizing the actors. And so shooting 15 to 20 pages a day is not normal.
One take, literally, for like a lot of it.
Getting, and it literally is sometimes one take.
I feel like most of the time when I do them, it is one take.
Yeah.
At least for your close-up, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, and then your other co-stars sometimes are not even actors. You know, I have a lot of where it's like, oh, this is, you know, a model or a person who's never been on a set before, or who's been on like a set before. And that's no judgment on them, but if you're on a TV show, it's probably a different dynamic. Your director is probably fluent in your native language. And so like because a lot of these, you know, directors like speak primarily Chinese. And so then you have a language barrier, which to have your director have a language barrier with you is a pretty big challenge. Yeah. Because they're probably who you need the best communication.
Right.
And you know, you're working with an entirely non-union crew. The script was written very quickly and translated over. So you're just really not set up for success in the same way that you would be on a studio production. So if I can like conquer that and give something that's just decent, like I feel like it's like, okay, cool, I can do something that's good, you know, when I'm in an environment where I am set up for success.
Speaking of bad writing, hypothetically,
Hypothetically.
if you're given something with bad writing,
Yes, hypothetically.
and you're like reading it and you're like, I don't even know how I'm gonna play this
Yeah.
authentically, how do you go about that?
Such a good question. I spent a lot of time when I was in my later years of college reading teen romance novels.
Okay. Oh, she gets it then.
Well, because I was like getting auditions for these characters. I got the big old doll eyes, and so they're like putting me out for like the girl with nothing in her head except she needs a man, and that's not me as a person. I don't have those desires like that, and I didn't get it. So I was reading these books because they walk you through like the character's thoughts at least. So even if I don't really get what they're doing, I can kind of start to track like why. There's some kind of justification in a novel. So I read a bunch of those and they helped so much. Now, I think it just comes down to keeping it moment to moment. And as real people, we don't always know why we're doing what we're doing. Like sometimes when we go into like a panic mode, especially when stakes get higher, you start to act off of instinct and you're not rational. And sometimes you end up in situations and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? And now your goal is just to try to survive through it. So I think sometimes I just put my characters into like a fight or flight. Like, doesn't really matter how you got yourself in the situation you are now and you have to deal with it. And that refocus from like, oh, but it's because I need $4 million on this man. No, you don't. Go home. Like, stand up, girl. Like, so I just kind of sometimes have to take it out of the context of what's going on in the script and put it more in just like, if I were plopped here, like a generated synth, and I had to fight my way out, I gotta fight my way out.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good answer. I think too, I love what you mentioned about just acting moment to moment, because I even think in some acting classes, they'd be like breaking down every little thing in the script, like, why are they saying this and what are you feeling? And I'm like, as human beings, you kind of said this, but we don't do that. Like, I'm not talking to Molly right now being like, okay, I'm saying these words to Molly, but inside my inner thought is this, and I'm saying these words, but really I mean this. Like, you're just acting on instinct, so I love that.
And we have regrets and like insecurities. And sometimes I talk and like, that was the dumbest shit I have ever said in my entire life. I've done it in this conversation already. Like, I'm constantly rethinking like what I've done. And so it's okay for your characters to have those same regrets and apprehensions and insecurities about what they're doing. And so I think realizing that my characters get to be full-fledged humans with a full spectrum of human emotions and thoughts and feelings. I sound like my professor, Kate. Shout out to Kate Thompson. She's such a lovely human being. She always talks about
From Western?
Yeah, from Western Michigan University. I don't know where she is right now, but I hope she's doing great. I hope she has a great day.
I actually know quite a few people because, again, I'm from Michigan, so I have some friends that are in the theater program there, so we actually have some people that I know are going to Western right now in the theater program, so maybe they even recognize you because we were close.
Okay, well, tell Kate Thompson I say hi, and I'm talking about her on a podcast right now. Yeah, she's great. She's lovely. Great actor.
That's good. Speaking of Western, I'm just curious, how was that program in general for you? Do you feel like it prepped you a lot in terms of acting technique? Did it prep you for the business? Because did you fully finish it? I know you left college, but you fully finished the program online, right? Like you got your BFA from Western, or did you transfer?
I just did 2 years in one. So I did like a junior senior year at the same time. So I ended up graduating with a class that was like ahead of me. So I only did 3 years total, but my last year was taking both course loads.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. I don't feel like I can give it a fair judgment because I was there throughout the entirety of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So they were trying their best to like give us something that was going to be helpful, but the pandemic just still did everything. And doing like a theater class online was tough, and we weren't always having like act on on Zoom. But the environment was just so different. I feel like I really can't give it a fair assessment.
I feel that same way about my college. When people ask me, I'm like, I don't.
Yeah.
Or half online. I don't know.
I feel like I wish I could give it a better. I also had like a lot of personal stuff going on at that time in my life too. So that kind of clouded over a lot of it. Yeah.
I would love to talk to you because you come off as very self-assured and confident. I noticed it, and I feel like a lot of people do notice that about you. So I'm curious, is that something that comes natural to you, or do you feel like you've worked on that over the last few years since being in LA, since pursuing this industry?
Yeah.
Or have you always been that way?
I was a really confident child. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. Talking to 200 people in my village. It was a village. I swear to God, it was a village. Look it up. Arcadia, Michigan. So I didn't have much that was tearing me down because there wasn't much around me.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm serious. Like I didn't have much that was boosting me up. I didn't have anything that's turning me down. So I felt like I was really free as a kid to kind of be whatever. And I'm so fortunate. I mean, my biggest advantage in this life has been my family. They've been incredibly supportive, and I got accused of being a Nepo baby once, and I laughed out loud. I laughed because it was
Nobody from Michigan's a Nepo baby.
It struck me as just the funniest thing in the world. It was so. Anyway, my family. I mean, my mom's a teacher, and my dad does something that I'm not really aware of. But they have never been on a stage before. There's no industry connection, and so I just was like, I have to go to LA. And I'm like, you need to go to 4th grade, actually. But I feel like I did grow up with all the love and support in the world, and it gave me an unbridled confidence, which fell away when I got into kind of middle school, high school, as I feel like it does with a lot of adolescent girls, unfortunately, because society really hates a confident woman. And so I had a lot of signals telling me that was wrong, and not something that I should be continuing to present to the world. And so I struggled throughout my late adolescence quite a bit with my self-confidence. And I had some really low points with it. And I realized after a few years, I was like, this is not helpful to anything. I'm not happy. My career's worse off for it. I've had periods of my life with really extreme anxiety. And I was like, if I'm feeling this anxious, I actually can't give a good audition. I'm holding myself back because I refuse to be confident in myself because other people are finding it threatening. And I'm prioritizing their happiness with my existence over my own, out of fear and wanting to be accepted. And I had to first forgive myself for that and then move past it. And some of that was kicking my own ass and being like, this thought train that you're on right now is going nowhere but off a cliff. And I was bombing auditions, I would do shitty work, and that was crushing. To get to a point where, my acting was suffering because of it was probably the biggest wake-up call I had. Because I've said it before, my pride is bigger than my ego. And so if there's something wrong with my acting, I need to know now, because I gotta fix that. I'd rather be told I'm wrong about something and fix it than continue to be wrong. So it took a while, and it took changing my entire environment. I had to move. I had to get out of where I was, and I had to start figuring out what it was that I wanted to do with my life and how I wanted to live it. And that was a slow process of a few years to feel like I had agency again. I had to heal my eating disorder. I struggled with anorexia for years, and until my body was living again and not on the brink of death, I couldn't even think. I lost my ability to think rationally. And so that was probably the biggest priority, was like, I was like, I just have to like survive through this. And then one day I was like, oh, eating food keeps me thinking happy thoughts. That's crazy. And that's still a struggle. I think that's things like that kind of stick with you for longer than they seem to after like the worst of it is over. But I think my confidence now is kind of out of stubbornness. Like I feel like I've lost so much of my life to insecurity, and I just kind of refuse to give any of the rest of it up. But I don't always feel great. Like I don't always feel confident, but I think when it comes to business, I'm able to kind of turn it on, because it's like, if I let that insecurity get in the way, it's gonna get in the way and hold me back. And I care more about my career and like achieving my dreams than I do about having this moment of like wallowing in self-pity. And so I'm glad that I give the impression of being confident all the time. But I think it is a skill. I think confidence is a skill, and like any skill, it needs to be practiced and trained, and it has to be something you want to get good at. Otherwise, you're not gonna move.
Yeah.
In my experience.
No,
I know
I
that's a
love
super personal journey.
Yeah, I love that, and I think you spoke to a lot of really good stuff, changing your mindset. Yeah, that was really beautiful. Do you have any tips for anybody out there, any actors maybe who are struggling with their confidence?
Your acting comes from your life. It is not your life. And so if you can't do it in your real life, you can't do it on stage or screen. And as an actor, you need to have full capacity of your body. You need to be able to safely access your full range of emotions and get in touch with all of the parts of your humanity, the good, the bad, and the scary, because your characters will. And if you can't do it safely, you either can't commit and now you have a flat performance, or you're putting yourself in danger of messing up your real life for, I mean, like, God bless Heath Ledger, but like, you gotta be okay with yourself before you can take that kind of risk to like live truthfully in an intense circumstance. So it starts with every day, just, even if it feels like you're lying to yourself, like what you say is what you believe. And I think you've got to practice it, and you need to practice it intentionally and carefully and consistently above everything. And then slowly it will start to change. Your thoughts do become your actions. And once you get comfortable being confident, it gets easier, and you want to be more confident because it feels really good when you're locked into that. And it starts small, but if you don't start it, it never begins, I guess.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love too what you talked about, knowing yourself and knowing what you wanted, because I think that breeds a lot of confidence too. When you're listening to all these voices around you and you don't know who you are, that breeds a lot of confusion. When you know who you are, you know what you want, you finally committed to acting, you committed to being true to yourself. A lot of confidence comes from that. And not everybody's gonna like you either. That's another thing. So you have to be comfortable with that. Yeah. Whether you're holding yourself back or you're not, it's just humans are so fickle. They'll like you one minute and hate you the next. So if you're relying on that, that's never gonna fulfill you either.
Well, the myth of like, oh, this person, because I've been doing this so long that like I've heard so many voices from like industry professionals to like peers or, you know, professional actors or whatever. No one really knows what they're doing. Like, everyone's taking it one day at a time, and just like the A-listers who are emailing their agents begging for a job, like, everyone's fighting their day. So like, it's hard to get valuable advice from people because their situation is just not yours. And so at some point you kind of have to just say fuck it, like, and make some decisions for yourself and just see where that gets you. Because there is no stage advice. Like, there's no person out there who's able to like tell you something that can like fix your trajectory or like give you a career. It's all trial and error.
Yeah, that's
and being willing to take the risk.
Yeah, I think that's the beautiful thing about being an actor too, is there's no right path to being an actor, but it's also the worst part is that there's no right path to being an actor. But that's why I love what your mom's advice, because I feel like that is really practical. Sometimes you just got to take that leap of faith and just take it moment by moment.
Choice.
That's why this podcast is called Acting Like an Actor, because we're all just acting like we know what we're doing.
Oh,
none of us are actually, like, nobody actually knows, you know?
I was sitting this morning at the table with my boyfriend, and I'm like, do we take this shot or this shot? What happens? He's like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Okay. And that's the end of that. Like, and then there's something else. You're gonna get a new email tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, I would love to chat with you about some of the projects you've done.
Yes. Say as much as I'm legally able.
Yes, I'm sure. I feel like a lot of people watching are going to be watching you from reelshort because I had some DMs from your fangirlies.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, people were wanting you on. Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, because I had a couple
that.
other reelshort people on. Yeah, I was getting like DMs in the podcast.
Oh my god. Because my comments are always about my male co-star.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have some fan pages on TikTok too. I'll have to send them to you.
Are you serious?
Yeah. People that like screen record your stuff,
That's
make
crazy.
cute little edits.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All I've ever wanted is a middle school girl to make an edit of me.
Yeah. So the double life of my billionaire heiress. That was the first one you did, right?
Husband, yes.
Oh, the double life. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you for
there
correcting
you
me before the
go.
fangirls do. I know.
God.
That was also one of the first reel shorts that blew up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you were the villain in that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I got a story about that.
Okay. Yeah. Let's chat about it. Let's talk about it.
So I feel like I'm at a safe enough place in my career where I can like tell this story like without holding back the details because I've told versions of this story like several times. So this was over a year ago. Yeah. And it was on Actors Access and these vertical things just started popping up. And I submitted, they called me and I did like a tape and they gave me the tape request and I'd already been taping that night, so I had my setup going, but I just finished and so I just smoked a joint. And then I got this thing and I was like, I bet I can do it. So I recorded it, high as shit. And it was me walking in. I can like, if you want, I can like give you the audition tape. I'm sure I still have it.
Play it now.
And I walk in and I'm like, so, you need money? You're acting like a beggar. And then it was completely ridiculous. And then they booked me. And so I showed up to set and it was like 4 people on camera. And yeah, it was
small.
It was like a little rinky-dink ass production.
Were they paying you guys okay though?
I
For
think
non-union work at the time?
Yes. So
Okay.
I know the lead, Avery. She got $500 a day for 7 days. I think I got $400 a day.
Okay.
For like 4 or 5 days.
Which especially at the time, like things were, I feel like even slower
better.
last year.
Yeah.
That we were like, the minute these started popping up, we were like,
No, that was
great.
a lot of money. I
Yeah.
literally have still on my notes app, things started getting weird fast. And so I kept a list on my notes app of all the stuff on that production that was like strange. And it wasn't that anything was like wrong with it,
Yeah.
it was just bizarre.
Yeah.
And so I filmed the first day and I thought this is gonna die in someone's basement. Like this isn't
they
gonna
didn't
see
think.
the light of day.
Yeah.
It was, the script was what the script was. And I thought the entire thing was just a complete joke. And I thought I'd been like scammed out of a job. I was like, I don't know if this is like a real thing or not. And so, here's the part. I showed up to day 2 and I was in my car and I was like, there's something gonna happen. I'm like, whatever, I'm just wasting a day. I did smoke a little bit of weed. And then I went to set and I filmed the scene, the opening scene in that to this day is used in the advertising. And it's when she's like asking for money and I come in and I'm like, you can marry Sebastian Klein in my place. And I was high as shit. And I was like, this doesn't matter for any, like this is truly inconsequential. And then it came out and it like just exploded. I mean, hundreds of millions of people have seen this thing. I still to this day get jobs like because of that show. But that put me pretty firmly into like the villain category. Yeah. And so I spent like a few months being pigeonholed into that before people started giving me a lead. Like, but you do the villain so well. And I was like, I don't know what I did. I blacked out, I showed up, and then I left. Like, it was crazy. I feel like there are a few more details that I can probably share in another year.
Okay.
Now that I'm running through them in my head, I think a girl's gotta keep some secrets.
No worries,
But that production was one of the craziest shoots I've been on.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
It was wild. The assortment of cast that we had was pretty insane too. It was Jared Harper was the male lead. He and I did whenever we're getting back together this spring. And people were like, oh my god, you finally got him in the end. Like Cassie finally won. She got the man.
Was you guys were playing different people or the same?
different characters, but I was originally supposed to marry him in Double Life, and then he married my sister, and hence the drama.
Although honestly, you know what they always say is like, do on set what you did in the audition. If you were high in the audition, she did her job, ladies and gents. Like, you know, you were keeping it.
It kills me that it's like that. If I had known that a piece of my work was going to get the kind of exposure that that scene did, I would have prepped for a month. Like, I wouldn't have, I would have taken it more seriously. And I guess there's a lesson, You never know what's gonna do well. And so you better take everything as seriously as though it's gonna get you an Oscar nom, because you just don't have a clue. And that's happened to me several times now where I've done work and then it's turned out to get like some crazy exposure that I never anticipated. And I'm like, are you serious? And then I do a scene and I'm like, that's my best work ever. And the project never sees the light of day in any capacity.
Yeah.
Never gets released. And so, I guess that's just the risk you take. But gotta go balls to the wall.
Truly. I also want to talk to you about the mail lady. What's the story with that? You have a film on Tubi, correct? Is it still on there? Or it was for a minute?
I'm not sure if it's still on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If it's sensitive, we can cut this and you don't have to talk about it.
No, let me think about what I can say about this.
When did you shoot it? Like, how did you get the audition? Things like that.
I don't know how I got the audition.
Oh, okay.
They emailed me one day.
Oh, okay.
And they were like, hey, we want you for, this lead in this movie. And I sent in a tape and they gave me a call back and then booked me. But I didn't have reps at
Was this
time.
post verticals or no?
This was after I filmed Double Life.
Had it come out already?
I don't think so.
Okay, so they didn't find you from that.
I don't know.
okay.
And I asked when I got there, I was like, how did you guys find me? And they didn't give me an answer. So I don't know. So let me talk about the lessons that I learned from that shoot. I think will probably be the most constructive thing I have to say.
How long was it, too? And like, where'd you guys shoot and stuff?
It was in Detroit.
Oh.
Yep.
Were you back in Michigan or you flew back there for it?
I flew out.
Interesting.
Well, they flew me out.
Did they know you were from there? Or is that just a weird coincidence?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I really don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. Yeah, so I guess the mail lady is my one that's gonna be there throughout my career. That I can point to as like having given me a lot of personal growth and growth as an actor. And now, if, going onto that set, who I am at 22 versus who I was at 20 or 21, doing that, things would have gone very differently.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have the maturity or the experience to know what I needed to do in those positions. And so, if you've seen the movie, you know what it is. You've seen the movie. But I came away from that and it took me a couple months to kind of fully process the experience. And so then in my reflections, I learned that I have no lines. Like, I have firm boundaries and that is okay. And that is encouraged and actually better in the long run. And that there's not much that a producer can do. You can they can say what they want to say, but you are in control of your own work and your job. And so I feel like that movie inspired me to kind of like dig deeper and like reevaluate, what am I doing? What do I want to be doing? And how do I get there? It also gave me priorities as far as like, when do I leave I had to leave a family trip to shoot that. And it was the first time my whole family was going to be together in years. And so I gave that up, and it kind of taught me the importance of like, there are some things that you like gotta follow through with for yourself, for your life. And there will be another job, and that's okay. I needed reps. That was a huge lesson, was I need to get reps, because I kind of refused then to be put in a position again where I felt like I was my sole advocate. There were a few situations where I reached out then to my previous rep that I had in college, and I asked them for some guidance on some things.
Michigan?
They were in Michigan. Yeah, they were Midwest-based reps. Productions Plus.
Okay.
in Detroit. Yeah, I had them and I Group. I was also in I Group.
The only two in Michigan.
Yeah.
I was with them too.
Yeah.
We all were.
So I reached out to them, and they basically told me, we didn't book you the job, so you're on your own, and left me. So I left them. And so that was like, okay, I've been through my first rep issue. Like, that's not an acceptable response to me coming to you with this situation. So I think the mail lady taught me that I am in control of my career and no one can take that away from me, but there's so much responsibility that comes with that privilege. If you're working a corporate job, you're not as in control of your career because you've got, there's more of like a quota. And as an actor, we benefit from such freedom to say yes and no, but that's a big responsibility.
Yes.
And if you make those mistakes, say yes or no to the wrong things, like, you got to deal with those consequences.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go to a lighter one because I have a feeling this will be a good project that I'd love to chat with you about a little bit. We're coming to, oh my God, we've been talking for a long time though. Are you in a time crunch? We'll wrap up soon. Okay, we'll wrap up soon. Tails Vision. Can we chat about that?
Tails Vision!
Yes, I loved that. When you said, like, when you were talking about a project that you might be proud of for the year, I watched that. I was like, I feel like that was beautiful. Your work in that one.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, I don't even understand what that was. It looks like a vertical, but it's funny, but they don't seem like they're in the vertical world at all. What was that?
So I gotta like promote them here. So that Tristan is the guy who's the mastermind behind it. He was a vlogger for years and years. He then, as like, he wants to be a filmmaker, and getting his fight to get out of the vlog space is actually a really fascinating story. To like get out of that pigeonhole that you get in, especially when you get a lot of money or fame or whatever out of that, and kind of the strategy for shifting your career.
Yeah.
So now he's telling stories and doing filmmaking.
Cool.
So he has a whole series of these like little shorts, and they're basically verticals, and he's kind of trying to do like a more creative, expand the genres, expand what's possible with these verticals. And so my boyfriend, his name's Felix Verback, not to like plug him here, but he got me this job, so I guess I have to. He worked with them on one called Cogsworth, and it's about like 3 siblings who are like mechanically made by like a crazy scientist kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is making sense to me now because I watched it. Mm-hmm.
So they're all like a little like fucked up, but they have to like go on some adventure to go like save their mom who made them or something like that. They just filmed another one actually because it did really well. It performed super. You
filmed another one?
They did. Cogsworth just did another one. So they filmed another few episodes. So those will come out in the next few weeks, hopefully. But then he had worked with them, and he was like, "Hey, like, I got this girlfriend. Like, she's kind of cute. She can kind of act. Like, is there something for us to do together?" And they're like, "Yeah, actually, we've got this script about this alien guy who like falls into a girl's pool." And so we spent a day in November in a pool. God bless everyone who was on that set with me, because I complained about being cold the entire day. I was in like a little bikini, little shorts, and I was wet the whole day in November. I was so. I didn't know
it was November.
It was November. In my only defense, I do have like a medical condition that makes me like super cold.
Are you anemic?
I have Raynaud's.
Oh.
It's a circulation thing, I think.
Okay.
I turn colors. Like, I just lose feeling.
Yeah. So you get like brutally, like bone chilling cold. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a cold girl. But we filmed that back in November, and I'm like, my dad works for NASA, and I'm like hanging out by my pool, and then suddenly like an alien falls in my pool, and it's like this super cute guy, and then I gotta go like hide it from my dad.
Yeah.
So it's a fun thing. So their whole project, they do work with some Bad Kids, and Vincent. They're good friends, and so I know they kind of like, they don't collaborate, but they do kind of like talk. And so I'm hoping that Tails Vision is like an influence on the vertical space to be like, hey, we can do more than a werewolf or a CEO or a billionaire. And like, we can make some genres that are interesting to multiple demographics. Because I think something that's really holding the vertical space back right now is, the little I don't know what to call it.
They're tailoring to those 30 to 40-year-old women. Like,
Yeah.
they're only creating stuff. They're doing exactly what they know works, which is a smart business move, but it's also a stupid business move because you hold yourself back. I would watch shit like the Tales Vision stuff. If they were releasing stuff like that, you'd open it up to people our age, and then you get a whole ton more people on your app. So.
I mean, who's on their phone more than anyone? It's like,
yeah, right?
It's like, why are you not making stuff for a younger demographic? Mm-hmm. And the thing that I have, I mean, I guess like, I don't want to say like the beef that I have with the verticals, but like the beef that I have with the verticals is like, they're so narrow-minded. And the way that they present, especially gender norms, I think is the biggest thing. You have men who have no feelings and only care about money and hate everything and everyone, except for this one girl. And this one girl has not a thought in her head. She has one brain cell and it's not on all the time. And she just can't save herself for shit. She just has to be swept off her feet all the time. And then you get a second girl and she's a cunt. And she has no personality trait except that she's a cunt. And her tits are out in every scene. And the lead girl is dressed like an 8-year-old woman as well. Like, it's so narrow in how it represents, you know, the genders. And I think that it's really alienating a generation who just doesn't feel that way. And it's a little shocking sometimes when you see the plot points. There's a lot of sexual assault that are in these scripts where I don't think it has a place. I think that sexual assault needs to be reserved for stories that are about that, making a strong point about that, and where it is critically necessary to the story and is going to be handled with an insane amount of care. I think it has no place in a rom-com, and I think it has no place in something where you're casually watching it. I hear from like nurses who are like, I watch these in between my ICU shifts to give me like a break. You don't want to be hit with a girl getting braids, like, in the middle of that. Like, I don't think it's fair to your audience. I don't think it's fair to your performers, and I don't think it's fair to kind of like sexual assault survivors to kind of like trivialize something that is such a heavy topic for people. So I would love to see us get away from that. And violence towards women in general. I think there's a lot of unnecessary violence towards women in these scripts. So as much as I love a romance, like I love a good drama, I love a good rom-com, but I do think that the vertical space has a long way to go as far as creativity in the stories that it tells, because a lot of it feels like it comes down to lazy writing, and it's a lot cheaper and easier to just throw that into a script than to find a more compelling obstacle for your characters. And that's my soapbox on that.
No, I totally, I second everything you said. They make everything so casual, all of these deep, hard issues that you're right are deep struggles for so many people. And they just
comes up a lot. There's a total lack of representation. I mean, you and I are the lead actors in these a lot. Like, it's just people that look like us. The characters are always cast as conventionally attractive white people with very little, you know, they're all able-bodied. I had one where there was a character who was a wheelchair user, and they cast an able-bodied girl and had her sit in a wheelchair, and it's like, okay, all right, this is where we're at with this. We're in Los Angeles. It's not like we don't have options for actors here. You know, they're all cisgender. And I know for a fact that there have been issues before with, you know, actors who are not cisgender being recast as a result of that when clients have found out. There's a pretty big there's very little sexual orientation diversity in these stories. So I hope that the vertical space gets a little more open-minded and creative with its stories, because I think there's a space for everyone within this space. But we need to make it happen, because it's not going to happen by telling the same stories over and over again.
No, it's not. Maybe Tristan should start his own app with Tales Vision.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still wondering, why has no American opened their own app and like done the thing? I don't know. Okay, we're coming to a little bit of a close here, but I'm curious, Molly, what is the thing that surprised you most about pursuing acting in Los Angeles?
You just do it.
Yeah.
That you just do it.
Yeah.
There's not anything that's more difficult or intense than, it's all difficult. The dean of my college BFA program always said, acting never gets easier, it just gets more possible. I think about that every day. And she's right. Joan Harrington, shout out Joan Harrington. She's right about that. And I think that the acting and the career of being an actor are not the same thing. But it's the same principle for both. If you want something to happen, there's no other way other than to just do it, and there's no one who you're gonna meet who's going to make it happen for you, unless it's a stroke of luck, but you can't count on that. So if you want it to work, you just gotta make it work, and that like perseverance like is what makes a career. And I thought there was gonna be some secret something or other that I was gonna do or say or learn that was gonna change that. And I mean, I'm 22, so like there could be, and I don't know about it, but I don't know about it.
Yeah. Slide in the DMs, please, if you know.
Slide in the DMs.
Share with the group. No, I love that. Yeah, that's so true. I think to kind of second what you were saying about just doing it, I always say like nobody's gonna fight harder for your career than you do. No agent, no manager, none of that stuff. I even think in terms of representation, yeah, have representation, but when you're non-union, I always think you should self-submit and like also have your eye on opportunities.
You gotta have your eye on
just
yourself.
because, yeah. Even if you get an amazing manager, I love my manager, I still self-submit. Just because, you know. Okay, final question before I always end with a fast frisky 5, which is 5 rapid fire questions.
Great.
But before we go there, if you could give advice to young Molly moving out here to Los Angeles about to pursue acting, do you have anything you would tell her?
Oh, what would I tell Molly? Oh, I would tell Molly that she needs to get the money that she's owed when she gets her first job and to not let it go until she has that check in her hands, because I lost $5,000 because I was a pushover.
And for an acting job?
No, it was like my day job at the time. I was an assistant, and I was like, oh, it's okay.
They still didn't pay you, or you got it?
I didn't. I never got the money,
You never got the money.
and I would have told myself to fight for that $5K.
You know what's so wild about that? I have a similar thing. It was only $3,500, but I was an assistant to a director for like weeks and weeks on a feature film when I was 18 out here. Never got paid. And I did DM him for months and months and months. I still follow this motherfucker on Instagram. I think about it sometimes.
Ghosted.
You got ghosted.
My ass got ghosted.
How many months of like work was this and stuff? That's a lot.
No, so
And there's no contract or anything, I assume, right? So
it was my fault because I hadn't submitted my pay stubs on time. Because I was just like working with this guy.
Yeah,
it wasn't like
it was
anything.
casual.
It was casual.
Still.
And I was like, oh, I don't need to bother him. I don't need this, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple months had gone by, and then I was like, can I pay? And then it was like, bye. And that was the end of it. So I would, everything else I feel like has been character building. But I would tell myself, go get your check.
Yeah.
Go get your money. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, I hope he's still alive. I'm so serious.
Oh, you don't even have an Instagram, email, phone number?
No, he's like
nothing?
80.
Oh, he's an older
He was
man.
old.
Okay.
And then he wasn't 80, he was probably like 70. I don't know how old he was, but he was older.
You know his address?
Yeah, I could
show up there with
house.
that.
I could pull his house. No, I let it go because I was like, this was my loss.
For sure.
Like I've learned from
You've
that.
come to terms with it.
I've come to terms
I
with
do
it.
that too. It hurts, but yeah.
It was on me. Like I had opportunities to fix the situation. I was naive enough to think that like I had more time than I did. But I told myself, don't fuck that up. Go get your fucking check. Are you kidding me?
Okay, are you ready for Fast 55? It's
So
supposed to be
ready.
rapid fire, but they're rapid fire questions that require a lot of thought. That's the caveat.
Oh, great. Okay.
Favorite quote?
Follow your bliss, Joseph Campbell.
Oh, love that. That was good.
Named after it.
Something in LA that you love that not a lot of people know about. Do you have like a go-to place?
Jeez. Because I'm not from LA, I feel like I'm gonna say something and the comments are gonna be like, everyone knows about that. I think how like easy it actually is to get to like nature. You gotta drive like 30 minutes, that's it. And then you're there. That's what keeps me alive.
No, literally, like yesterday, we were only 30 minutes from like,
Right,
this area, but it feels like a
right.
different, I know, it felt like a different world over
We're
there.
hanging out with
It was
horses.
quiet, yeah, you can see, you can breathe,
could
fresh
breathe,
air,
wow.
I know.
My lungs. I sound like this now. Like I feel like my vocal fry, yes, it's from like the code switching into the area, but I feel like my lungs are so fried from like the air
Just the
pollution.
air. I know.
And I do partake in a joint or two every once in a while. That's not helping anything.
It's fine, but it is helping your acting. Who knows?
you
Maybe
were.
you wouldn't have booked that first vertical, Molly. Who knows?
You're so
I'm sure you would have.
Yes.
Favorite line in a movie or show?
Something that always gets me is I don't know what the movie is, but it's a guy shows up to the door and he's looking for someone, and the guy who he's looking for jumps. Oh, it's a girl. She's like looking for her boyfriend, and the boyfriend jumps out the fucking window, and the guy from Succession, one of the brothers, the little one that looks like it bites ankles, Kieran McCulkin.
Yeah.
He opens the door and he's like, "No, sorry, you just missed him." She's like, "Really?" And he jumps out the window behind him.
Oh, that's funny. What is that from? I can see that in my head.
It might be. Is it Scott Pilgrim?
I don't think so.
I feel like it's something that's a similar vibe to
similar
Scott
vibe.
Pilgrim, but I don't. I
Let's
watched
know
the
if you
movie.
know.
I watched the movie and I was like, "Oh, that's what that's from." But the way he says, "Oh, just missed him," as the fucker is like diving out the window in the background, kills me every single time.
I love that. Pickles, yeah or nay?
Oh fuck yeah!
Okay.
With some
You like
pickles.
sweet pickles?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I prefer I'm a dill girl.
Yeah, me too.
If I gotta get a bread and butter, like girls gotta
That's
do
a
what
lot.
girls gotta do. Olives though, get that shit away from me.
Can't do them.
You can't fuck olives.
Recent obsession of yours.
The Curse. I just watched The Curse. It was fantastic. It's Emma Stone, who's the goddess, and Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie. And they are like, he's like a piece of shit producer, and they have like an HGTV show. Yeah, where they're like trying to make the world a better place, but like they're not. The acting's fantastic. The story's super interesting. It's so well written. It's great. I hope it sweeps the onions this year. I really do. For the
Sure
lead
it
series.
will. Even just with that cast lineup.
No, it's great.
Any last words for our acting like an actor viewers out there? A lot of newbie actors, a lot of working actors.
Oh, learn about your fucking taxes. If you're making any money acting, you need to like do some deep research on your taxes because you're losing money. You get a W-9, which is bullshit. They take 30% out, and if you got reps, that's 20%. So you're losing 50% of your income. And if you don't know that and you don't account for that, they hand you that nice little check, and you go and cash that shit. You can't pay your fucking taxes that year.
Yeah, you owe a lot. It didn't happen to you, or
It
did?
didn't happen to me, but this next year I'm about to get fucked. Because this next year is 100% of my acting income.
Yeah.
For this year already, I owe between 5 and 10K for taxes. And we're into June.
That's exactly what happened to me this last year, because I did fully freelance last year. Some acting and a little bit of producing and whatnot, but yeah, I owed over 10K this year. My mom's an accountant though, so with like write-offs, because everything's a write-off when you're an actor. That's something to make note. Like your phone, your car, gas is a write-off. Food on your way to set, like you can write off pretty much
You get
anything.
30% off your DoorDashes if you're on set.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you get 30%. And itemize your deductions, because even if it doesn't hit that $12,000, it comes off of your profit. So you're paying less. You're paying off of less. You're paying money on a smaller total of your income because your expenses are not your profit. So itemize your deductions anyway, and then you pay less in taxes. If anyone has a recommendation for like an accountant, or if your mom's taking new clients, like I need a girly pop to help me out this year, so it's gonna be brutal. But learn about your taxes, and like you need to have money to stay in this game, and that's why people quit acting, is because they can't afford to keep being an actor.
It's true.
So you've got to be smart with your money, and if you're not, Brittany Broski puts 50% of everything she makes into a savings account, because she knows that just because she's as famous now doesn't mean she'll always be.
And they, as the rich get richer, like your expenses go up, and then they pull more money from you too. So it's like you said, you're losing 50% of what you make right there.
Yep.
Even if you do an acting job and you think you're getting like 10K for that co-star,
No, you're not.
5K.
You're
after
getting
your
5.
reps.
Yeah.
And it's like if your manager takes 20 and your agent
takes
also,
10.
yeah.
Or 20?
Sometimes they both take 20. I know people like that. I don't.
thought
No,
it was
agents. Yeah, it's capped for agents. Managers can take 20 though, so you could be giving 20 and 10.
Yeah, that's brutal. So you're not making as much money as you think you are. And
Yeah.
you need to take that into account in your negotiations. Because if you don't negotiate for that, yes, you're coming off your paycheck. My stud essentials, I'll plug this.
Yeah.
I ordered the real Uggs. The Uggs that you can get in the US are not the real ones. That's why they're falling apart after a few months.
Oh.
Ugg by 1974 is the real company that still does the sheepskin handmade in Australia. The back order is 6 months, so if you want them, get on the fucking list now. They're several $100s, but they're my most comfortable shoes, and I get paid to walk around in stilettos all day.
You have the big boot ones, the big boot
I have
Uggs.
the ones. I have the ankle ones.
Okay.
I also have the platform ones because I don't trust the streets of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so it keeps my feet safely above the streets of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But it saves me every time I'm in a rehearsal and they're not seeing my feet. And they're the same height as my heels, so they'll let me keep them on.
Yeah, that's good.
Get yourself a good ass pair of shoes. Make sure that you're eating well, because if you get to the end of a 12-hour day and you realize you haven't eaten enough or well,
Bring stuff just to be safe. If you're in the non-union game, I always tell people, like, if you like nuts or like protein bars, at least bring something. If you remember, at least toss in a protein bar, because I don't know about you, but I've literally been on sets where sometimes they run out of food. Like, non-union productions get weird, and I'm literally like hungry as fuck and there's nothing to eat, and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah. Get some good bras. Target has these sticky bras where it's like it's a full cup and then it's sticky on the back. Those have been a lifesaver for me on these criticals because they have you change clothes like 4 billion times and you got to keep changing a bra for the right outfits. So those are great, so you don't have to change as much. Stock up on your seamless nude thongs. Get yourself a Celsius. I'm working on a sponsorship with them. I'm trying to get a sponsorship because they bring 2 a day on sets.
Oh yeah. At least get free product from them so you're not buying them.
Right?
Yeah, like even if they won't pay you to do it, at least,
Your headshots are probably fine. That's probably not the issue. I mean, like, go train your headshots, but I feel like that's like the fallback. Everyone's like, oh, it's my headshots.
I know.
So it's probably not your headshots.
No, we're just, all of us actors, we're always trying to figure out what the issue is. Oh, it's my reel, it's my headshots. It's like,
it's more likely to be your reel than your headshots. One of my other little, like, quick things I wish I knew, like, a few years ago. Negotiate more. Like, always ask for more.
yeah. You can even, like, what I used to do a lot, and I still sometimes do, is I negotiate, like, higher than what I actually think I'll get. Because usually what you say, they'll try to go a little lower. Yeah. So it's like, if I want 500 a day, 600 a day. But they'll be like 550. I'm like, great, that's good.
I'm currently doing a negotiation where they accepted my first offer. And I was like, I threw on an extra, like, however much because I was anticipating them coming down. And then they said yes. And then you're like, well, how much could I have gotten?
I know, I think about that sometimes too, especially if it's so easy. Like, if they're easy, like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, I should have.
They're like, oh, no, we'll just take a few background out of this scene to make up for it. I was like, can we take out all the background and give me another? Hoard your money.
Yeah, save.
Do your best to avoid getting addicted to anything. And anything includes, like, nicotine, caffeine, weed.
Caffeine was a big one for me.
Yeah. You can get addicted to emotional intensity. Like, if that's a thing. Don't sabotage your relationships because you're feeling like you need to act more. I do that.
We all do that. I know. You have to check yourself.
If I go too long without being on set, I'm like, well, where's the drama? Because they're creative. No. Take a nap and book a job. Like, sit your ass down.
We thrive off chaos. I feel like all of us do that. I do the same thing. I start stirring up shit with, like, texting my exes, like, random stuff. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I just need to, no.
You just need a job. Have hobbies. Oh my God, it's so important to have hobbies because there are going to be so many times that you're not on set. And if you have nothing else to do, you will lose your fucking mind. So invest in some hobbies. I learned how to acrylic paint.
Yeah, show me your nails. Too. She also does nails.
I do my nails.
Acrylic paint. She's a nail girly.
I don't know. Get a water bottle. Drink more fucking water.
Yeah, that's a good one. On set, drink water too. That's a hard battle though, because I don't like to have to pee all the time, but I need to stay hydrated anyway.
Yeah. If you have a day job, here's my thing. Here's the only thing I'll say because I've had this conversation like a few times. I know we're like running so over.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. So I've got friends who like don't live in LA and the debate of like, do I move to LA or not?
Yes.
And so here's my opinion on whether or not you need to be in LA as someone who's been in LA for like 2 years now. I would not be a full-time working actor if I didn't live in LA because simply the volume of work wouldn't exist. Chicago's great, New York's great, Atlanta's great, New Mexico's great, but there's still not more coming for me. If you're a different type than me, whether that's look or acting or whatever, that could be different. And so I've got a friend right now who's struggling because she's like, I don't know what market I fit into best. You gotta figure that out. But I know that I have to be in LA for my career to continue at the rate that it is. It's expensive as shit. So if you can't like afford LA, that's gonna be an issue. But wherever you stay and invest in is where you build your community and your connections. So everything that I have is just from community and connections and like stuff building on itself. And so if I hadn't started in LA, like all my shit would be elsewhere. And then you gotta try to transfer that.
Yeah.
And that's its own challenge. So the only advantage to LA is that you're already here, and so that the progress you make here counts towards here, and it is the biggest. But if you know that you're gonna book everything if you're procedurals, if you're up for a procedural every fucking week, get your ass to New York, get your ass to Chicago, that's where they film those. So it doesn't matter where you live, because everything's a self-tape now anyway. But if you want to prioritize, your connections, you've got to make it work where you can get your connections.
Yeah.
And there's no way to do it but to do it. And if you wait until you're too safe, like, the clock is ticking in some capacity.
It is. And even what we were saying about 25, we were kind of dicking around about it, but also, like, you got a time limit. And that's not like, oh, you're 26, like, you're fucked. No.
But, like, you do need to get credits. And the older you are without credits, the harder it is for casting directors to be able to, like, call you in, because they got to justify to the studios why they're calling in someone that doesn't have credits when they've got a billion people who do.
Yeah.
So it's just that, like, it takes 10 years. The average overnight success takes 10 years. That's true. So when do you want your 10 years to start is kind of that decision. And then how much are you willing to sacrifice to get the 10 years started? Yeah. If I had known how hard it would be to move to LA when I did it, I probably would not have. It was ridiculous. Nico and Kobe are two of my best friends, and they let me sleep on their futon for a month when I got here. I was trying to buy a car, and getting around LA without a car was damn hard. And I literally threw a full-blown 2-year-old toddler tantrum on their kitchen floor one day because I had lost like my 4th car, and it was like, now I'm fucked again, can't get anywhere, and I was sobbing, just a complete disaster. I was like, I can never do this. I had a few breakdowns like that in my first few months of like, I'm not settled. Your first 6 months, you're just trying to figure out which way you turn your door to unlock it. You're not able to build a life yet.
No.
Anything that happens in the first 6 months doesn't count.
Yeah.
You don't really start living in a place until like a year in at least.
So true. Yeah, and like you said too, things take time as well, so you might as well make the jump, and then you're getting that kickstart. What I will say too, to touch on the finances a little bit as well, we wouldn't be making as much money also back in Michigan. I think that number one, we couldn't work as actors, but also even like I do event work out here, the minimum they pay us at my event companies is $35 an hour for me to stand there with a fucking tray of food and look pretty. Yeah, that stuff only exists in LA. That type of stuff in the Midwest. My friends in the Midwest working corporate with their degrees are making $25 an hour. Yeah. Why do I make $35 an hour out here to stand with a tray? Your day job's like. So even like you can make more money out here. You can. And you gotta get creative with that a little bit. But yeah, there's that too. I want to hear from you though before we stop this. Like, what are you excited about? What are your like 3 things coming up for you? Not necessarily jobs, but like what are you anticipating eagerly? Yeah, I'm working on my own short right now. So we're in pre-production, my writing partner and I, and we're gonna film that in September. So that's kind of what's so that's gonna be the first thing that I'm like writing, directing, everything like that. So that's something I'm very excited about. Do you get a teaser on what it's about at all? Not yet. I don't want to spill it yet. But soon. Here soon. It's based around like a real life experience. And I'm starting with a short, but we planned it out very strategically where it could also be a show. So I'm hoping, like, my dream as a little girl was to always like honestly be in like a CW show or like something like that to start off and then do movies later on. And I think with our age, with our type, they use like people around our age, newer actors a lot of the time in those Netflix, those HBO shows, things like that. That was my dream, and it still is my dream if that happens. But you know how it is, you're out here for so long, and I keep thinking that that's like such a luck of the draw thing. And I also like writing and directing. So now I'm almost like, okay, well, what if I wrote and direct my own show? Because I didn't realize that was a love of mine, but I do very much love the opposite side of the camera as well. I like being in front of it, but I do love behind it. And I always thought I would do that later in life, but it's like, why not now? And as I create this project, I can ideally put myself in it as well. So that's something I'm excited about. I also have a gig of doing a feature film in Vietnam in August. What the fuck? Which is a very random, it was like one of those things. I auditioned for it like last March with this director guy. He's very big in like Vietnam. Like he's done he has a film on Netflix. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's not in our language, but he's this like semi-established director. And I'll be out there just for a very small thing in his film too, so I'm excited for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's some things I'm
That's
excited
awesome.
about.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's your third?
Oh yeah, my third. This is just a personal thing, but I'm going to Europe
She's a travel girl.
in August by myself. I booked my flight there, but I don't know like how long I'm going to stay there or anything like that. I've been setting aside money for this trip for a while, so I have enough where I could like free ball it for a couple weeks. You do in hostels because I'm going by myself. So that's something personal that I'm excited about. And I'm hoping while I'm there, I'll also get the inspiration bug to like write a little bit. Because I don't know about you, I just like, when I'm in LA, it's so hard for me to like relax and like do that stuff. It's so much easier when I go elsewhere. I just find myself, it's so hard to take a break, but every time I take a break, I get so inspired to create my own stuff and like reinvigorated in my career. So that's something more personal that I'm looking forward to. But
Good for you. Yeah, LA can get claustrophobic sometimes. Yeah, and I know people judge like the transplants are like the problem, but it's the billboards are all over the place. Like you're always running into people, you know, like it is hard to feel like you can genuinely kind of like turn the industry off for a while.
yeah, it
Because
is.
it really is all encompassing like within the city. And so getting out like is so important, I think, to give yourself that kind of clarity and like kind of take away the pressure and do it for yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Which that has been nice creating my own stuff as well, is like just having more control instead of always being in other people's projects. To be the one behind it is really nice. It's just super frustrating because like random things pop up. You know how it is, even as actors we see it, but in terms of like budget, I had investors, but then investors pulled out, random things like that. So it's been funky. So like September is the plan, but we'll see. We'll see.
Good for you. Yeah, and also getting your first one out of the way.
That's the thing too. I know I'm getting like all of my dreams. I'm like, we could turn it into a show, and my partner's like, okay, we got to get this short going. So I feel like let's take it step by step.
Yeah.
So starting with that and going from there. But
that's so empowering too, to take control of your own work like that. Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, I guess with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.